Hello, guys, and welcome to another episode of the Full Time Whistle Co podcast. So, earlier today, all of us were, ple- I wouldn't say pleasantly surprised, but horrified for some of us that, Thomas Tuchel has been relieved of his duties. So, let's dive into it. And our two resident Chelsea fans, guys, what are your thoughts on this? And we'll get on to who the possible replacements are. But guys, first thoughts on his sacking.
Yeah, I was extremely shocked to be honest because it I didn't see it coming at all.
Mm,
Yes, obviously the results haven't been great, and yesterday's loss was really it was bad because if you lose against a Dynamo side that has won only 5 of their 43 Champions League games in their entire history, I mean
mm,
obviously things are not going right. But then I think Tuchel had enough credit in the bank with everything
mm,
that he'd done over the last 18 months with the Champions League triumph, and then with the horrible circumstances that he had to deal with last season towards the end of last season, and the signs that were coming out of the camp earlier in the transfer window that Tuchel would be getting a new contract and that the ownership was looking to build a legacy around him. So I did not expect it at all. Like when I read the news, I initially thought it was a parody account or something when I read it on Twitter. But then yeah, so yeah, the news really hit me hard.
Gaurav, what about you?
Tuchel, like, where do I start? I mean, like, he came in from a floundering Lampard and he got his new ideas and his tactics and galvanized the team and we won the Champions League. So, I mean, like, he's definitely gonna go down in Chelsea history. And, he's gonna always be the guy who brought the second UCL trophy to the bridge. But I mean, I say the areas that Tuchel lack. He's a great coach, but perhaps he's a little one-dimensional because like he has like this set kind of tactics and the set kind of formations, and he expects his players to like fit within that. But like it worked well for the first 1 year. Like we won the Champions League and then we were top of the table till December last year. So it worked out for a year, but then obviously teams are going to research and figure out your tactics and stuff. So like they sort of figured out Tuchel's game plan. And another area where I feel Tuchel lacked a bit was probably the transfer market. So like we just won the Champions League and you expected like every player wants to sign for the Champions League winners. And we
Mm,
should have signed like a lot of players that window, but instead we went for Lukaku, who was like the worst signing in the history of Chelsea. So that happened, and this window as well. Like I'm not sure how much was down to Tuchel, whether he got the players he wanted, whether he um, fixed the gaps left by Rudiger, Christensen, and the likes. So I mean, like nowadays, modern managers are supposed to be good at not just the on-field tactics and coaching, but everything else as well. So that's where I feel Tuchel lacked. And of course, like these results at the start of the season were like really pathetic. So I can understand why they've sacked him. But yeah, a bit ruthless, but it's
I
Chelsea.
think based on what I think I find really baffling is that firstly, like these American owners have come in and they've sacked the entire management, like Maria Granovskaya and Petr Cech, who were sort of handling all of the transfers. All of them were gone. And although she did have a great record towards the end, it was a bit hit and miss on her signings, but I think overall she did a great job. I okay, fine. I agree that they had to get rid of the old management and sort of start fresh, but not signing a sporting director. And I mean, I don't want to bring up the stereotype of Americans not understanding football or our football or the way it's run here, but they did to his credit, he did go out and spend big. Like I think Chelsea were the biggest spenders this transfer window, and they did bring in a few key players. So I think with the lack of a sporting director, my understanding is that it has to be the manager who is asking for these players or has a bigger say in the transfer, since there's no like an overarching like a transfer strategy as such. So it has to be the manager who's sort of giving the final green light on these transfers and spending so much money to build a team around his tactics and the way he wants to play, and then sacking him 6 games later. I think it absolutely makes no sense. And the other thing also that I found even more confusing was that they gave out like huge contracts to these new signings. Like Fofana was given out a 7-year contract, and James has just signed a 5-year contract, and all of these players are locked in for the long term. So the manager who comes in now may find it difficult to move these players on. So, like, guys, what do you think, based on the situation that you are right now in, that, your manager is sacked, and we've seen the rumors of the sort of managers who are linked with the job. Uzair, what do you think, like, from the outside looking in, who do you see as probably a good fit for this team based on the squad that they have?
This is classic Chelsea, like it doesn't go well. The first dip in form, just get rid of the person. There's
Mhm.
no like backing to the manager. I think that's where this Chelsea side lacks. You don't find that connection between the manager, the fans, and the owners that you find in other clubs. Like in short term, it works well for the manager. He'll deliver a few trophies, and right when it goes, Chelsea, they never really stick by the manager that they've first gotten in. And
Mhm.
like, yeah, you can see that with like Conte, Sari, and all. They deliver trophies. Yeah, it brings you success also. Yeah, trophies is a measure of success. But the beauty of football, the connection between the fans, the trusting your manager, that's all not there. That's one thing I feel like Chelsea really lack. And now
Mhm.
going
I
forward, they may, yeah,
No, no, sorry.
Uzair.
Just on that point, I think with Tuchel, Chelsea actually did have a connection. The fans,
Mhm.
especially, did have a like really strong connection with the manager. And yeah, I agree that Chelsea fans had no connection with the likes of Sari and like even with Conte, the first season was great, but then the second season was just a complaint fest and everything. But like Chelsea really had a strong connection with the last two managers, first with Lampard and then with Tuchel. And I think the major problem was that gap between the manager and the board level, that was initially bridged by Petacek. So if
Mhm.
you see Tuchel in his press conferences, he's repeated that several times, the loss of Petacek, like how easy it was to communicate with the likes of Marina and Abramovich in the
Mhm.
previous era, uh, because Czech acted as that buffer. He was there every day in the training ground, overseeing things. And what surprised me is that, with all the turbulence that's been there towards the end of last season. So, and if when a new management comes in, you obviously transition into things. You don't just wipe out the old management completely. And
Mhm.
the fact that Boli and Co have decided to just revamp everything top to bottom, starting from the board of directors and Bruce Buck, and then to the manager himself. Like you do that step by step. You can't take out someone as key as Petacek, who you had a really good relationship with Tuchel, and then expect Tuchel to suddenly take up that role of a director of football. Like he's obviously been clear with it in the past seasons in his reigns with Dortmund and PSG that he doesn't want to do anything. He
True.
doesn't want anything to do with the footballing side of things. So like to have that pressure, he handled it reasonably well towards the end of last season, but you could see the papers, the cracks, appearing
Mhm.
slowly. He started complaining a lot, and he, like the transfers were not planned properly. Like, for example, the likes of Rafinha and Kunde, those
Mhm.
transfers seemed very wayward and haphazard, and you wonder whether it was like Tuca's fault or if it was the management's fault. So obviously there were a lot of disagreements, and the fact that Boli wanted Ronaldo, and Tuchel clearly said no. So all that probably created a lot of friction, and then I think it stems more than just from the results. It's like a deep-rooted thing right now because the management clearly wants a fresh start. They want someone whom they can work long-term with because apparently Tuchel wasn't very agreeable with
Mhm.
the current owners, and that you know Boli probably didn't like that. more than the results on the pitch, because let's face it, Boehly is new to English football, so he can't make judgments just based on a result of Dinamo Zagreb. So yeah, like there were a lot of things happening under the rugs, which was, like in the press conference, it was just everything was swept away. But yeah, right, today it just came out in a shock.
Even I would agree. I mean, like Chelsea fans had like a strong connection with Tuchel. And like considering also the Champions League win and stuff. And I was just pulling up some stats. Like Tuchel actually hasn't had a bad win percentage, like compared to like all the Chelsea managers that I've seen, and like I've been like a fan for like 20 years now. But yeah, Mourinho had a 63.6 win percentage. Antonio Conte had 65.1 and Tuchel has had 60. So like he's right up there with the other managers. But yeah, like the Chelsea chants for Tuchel and like the backing the fans had was definitely visible, and like it was pretty evident for Tuchel. So yeah,
I think personally, when I think at least modern day managers, I think they're more like coaches in the sense that, they just want to handle the stuff on the field and expect the club ownership or the management to hire people who are good at scouting or good at finding the right talents to do their job, rather than having a manager do sort of everything, like, how Ferguson or Wenger sort of managed the entire club back in the day. Like you see even modern teams, like even Tottenham right now with their excellent signings, have Fabio Paratici handling all of the signings. Um, Even at City, it is Chiki Bagristein who's handling all the signing of the players, the contract renewals, all of that stuff. So personally, I don't put that blame on him, but certainly if he is required to do that, and if the owners are expecting that of him, and he is not able to deliver that sort of clear cut targets that he wants, that are sort of big enough names to excite American owners. I mean, that's a little unfortunate, and it's sad that he, sort of went out this way in a little pretty unceremoniously for all that he has achieved at the club, winning the Champions League, the Club World Cup, as well as the Super Cup in his short 1.5 year stint. I think okay. I think now that he's sacked, I think we should look forward to what's in store for Chelsea. And the rumors right now linking Graham Potter to be the favorites, and I think Chelsea have already contacted him, and he's likely to take over as the next boss. So guys, what do you think about Potter's signing? Do you think he's ready for such a big step up?
So yeah, like Potter's been, performing really well, like managing teams like Ostersund and then Brighton, and pushing them to places that those clubs would have never thought they'd go to. So obviously he's probably the most progressive English manager in the last 10 years, I would say. He's a breath of fresh air in the English game. But obviously Brighton to Chelsea is a huge step up. And it's not easy to do that. Yes, he does have a lot of quality players in his Brighton lineup, but then he has to deal with superstars and egos when it comes to Chelsea. So his management skills will really come to the fore. But out of all the options that are available, I think the likes of Pochettino and Zidane have been mentioned as well. But I feel like Potter is probably the most. He's the manager that most suits the current ownership model, who wants someone who is more focused on, like building an attractive style of football, and is also agreeable with the management. You just give Potter a set of tools and he will deliver with them. Like for Brighton, they've lost the likes of Bissouma, Cucurella, Maupay in just one single window, and they're flying in the league. They're still fourth. So obviously there's plenty of potential there with Graham Potter, and I think he would be a good fit. But it still remains to be seen how he makes that step up, and after preseason is done. So obviously he doesn't have that window to try and test different teams, and yeah, it'll be really interesting.
I've also read rumors that there was some sort of player pressure that was also involved in the sacking, and it wasn't just the Todd Boehly not sort of seeing eye to eye with Tuchel. Do you see this, being like an issue that persists at Chelsea, or is this just something that's a coincidence in another manager sort of being sacked because of, player power? Gaurav?
Uh, I mean, I don't know. This squad is sort of like, I mean, apart from Thiago Silva and Azpilicueta, everyone else is pretty young. So,
Mm-hmm.
I like these new generation of football players all have like, I mean, like they have that ego. There's social media. There's all this stuff. So, like back in the day when Chelsea had their player power situations with like Terry and Ballack and Drogba and all that, at least that was like justifiable. But these guys are like,
Yeah,
these guys
prima
are
donna.
kids, and I don't know how much that has led to Tuchel sacking, but they've also not performed on the pitch. So like there's
Mm-hmm.
clearly some kind of mismatch and falling out there. I don't know what it is. But I would definitely love Zidane. He is like my
Mm-hmm.
favorite player of all time. And like I would definitely see that uh, it'll be a challenge for him that he'll be ready to take up. Because like at Madrid he had the squad. I mean he built it to some extent, and like obviously he won prolifically the Champions League and everything. But I think this can be like the next challenge for him to come to Chelsea and try to dominate domestically against the likes of Guardiola at City and Klopp at Liverpool, and try to win the Champions League with Chelsea. And like, so I would definitely, Potter is good. I don't know how ready he is to make the jump from Brighton to Chelsea, but for me, definite candidate is Zidane. I would like go all out and like just get Zidane.
So then, what do you think? Like, given Chelsea's situation right now, they have a pretty young squad with a few, experienced players like sprinkled in. Do you see someone like Potter, a young, exciting manager, being able to sort of grow with the club and this team as the man to lead them, or do you think that someone like Pochettino or Zidane who've sort of been there, done that, and have a lot more experience at the highest of levels? Who do you think would be a better fit for Chelsea in their current situation?
Coming to that players argument first,
Hmm.
I read somewhere that like during the trainings and all, the players had just stopped listening to Tuchel, and they just started discussing about his own personal life. This might just be some Twitter post that I've just seen, but that's just the beginning of like the building blocks are just starting to fall, crumble block by block, which is just not a good sign to have when you've lost the team and they stop listening to you as in like the training which is the training time and all. That's like this is the worst. Coming to the manager, uh looking from the outside, Potter scares me because it just work it you can just see it happen. Potter and Chelsea, you can see them just bond instantly, especially with him playing three at the back and how Tuchel has been playing. I can see them doing well this season if they get Potter, but I don't know how they'll manage in the long run. But whichever manager comes in, they need to know that their job isn't secure. Even Tuchel, he knew that his job wasn't secure, and he only signed a 2-year contract, if I remember correctly.
Hmm.
Yeah, and uh, they need to know Potter. It has no risks really because if it doesn't go well, they just switch to the next manager. That's anyways the Chelsea way. Zidane and Pochettino, they'll have to keep this in mind. And Pochettino, I'm not sure if the Chelsea fans will take into him
Hmm.
as easily as others. Yeah.
I think, even I feel like, Potter would be the best choice. I think after long, like we've seen a manager sort of come through the ranks and be considered of the level to take a top six job. And, while everyone does say that, he deserves an opportunity when an opportunity is there right now, like, I think there's still some skepticism regarding him and his achievements. So I think it would be a great opportunity for him, but as well for Chelsea to sort of bring some youth and exuberance and some fresh ideas to the team. And as for Zidane, I think that's I don't know, I feel like it's a little unlikely. Like he's been out of management for I think a couple of seasons, like 2, 3 years now. So I don't know if like, and Chelsea is a really high pressure job. So I don't know if he'll be really down to take up that sort of role. But I think, guys, yeah, final thoughts. If you had to pick the manager for Chelsea today, who would you pick? Gaurav, let's start with you.
I, I, I told you already, Zidane,
Zidane?
definitely Zidane.
Perfect, Rohit.
I'd go with Potter.
And Uzair.
I don't want Potter to happen, but I know it'll happen. So probably the highest possibility is Potter. Yeah.
I think even for me, I think, yeah, Potter is the one that really sort of gets me excited. And yeah, I think, guys, that's about it
I've heard
for
they've
this.
also started talks with Potter already.
Yeah, that's what
Yeah.
there are talks with him, but yeah, I think he's probably the favorite, and I think by tomorrow, day after, there is a good chance that he'll be announced.
Yeah.
So I think yeah, guys, that's about it from this episode. Let us know in the comments below, what do you think? Who should be the next manager? Was Tuchel sort of treated fairly? Don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel. And my name is Costo. We'll see you next time. Bye bye.